Anything Ghost, number 47, August 26th, 2007. Welcome to Anything Ghost. This is podcast number 47 of Anything Ghost, and my name is Lex. If you're new to the show, it's a podcast I created last year or so to be a place for you to share your paranormal experiences that you've experienced yourself, personal paranormal experiences. You email them in to me, lex@anythingghost.com, and I'll read them over the podcast. Another method, you can email in a recording, an MP3 I was going to say, but anything's fine, any kind of audio file. Mail it in to me, I'll drop it into the show, and we can all hear you tell your story. I haven't had any of those in a couple weeks, but they come and go. I get a batch of them, and then we don't get any for a couple weeks, so Halloween's coming up. We're going to get barraged with stories here, so be ready for that. I know last year it tripled my listenership, and then it dies down after the holidays. But okay, so I guess right now we'll get into the stories. Let me actually do a couple shout-outs. Thanks everyone for signing on the Frapper map, and the MySpace is taking off. Thanks everyone for signing up for MySpace and for leaving your comments on the Anything Ghost website. I appreciate that. And I guess a guy from Chile signed on, and let me open it up here. Okay, we go to Anything Ghost, and then I have it under the images link here. I'm probably going to have to move it. It was intended to be comments on the images that I posted, but it ends up being people saying hi. So that's quite alright. But he writes, "Hi Lex, I love the podcast. Recently I featured it on my website about gadgets, technosquad.com. I guess he has two of them. There's technosquad.com, but it's a Spanish blog. In a review about Apple TV. Greetings from Chile." And so that's one of the examples of a reading from my guest book. Exciting, huh? But thanks again, and let's move on with the stories. This first one is from Michael in North Carolina. "Hey Lex, when I was around the age of 19, I lived with my grandmother and grandfather. My grandfather was handicapped from a stroke that made him paralyzed on his right side. He got worse and worse over the months. On New Year's Eve, he was the worst that I'd ever seen him. It really scared me. I was going to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, for the annual New Year's Eve celebration on Franklin Street, and my friends were on the way to pick me up. I walked into my grandpa's room, and he was breathing heavy, lying there on the hospital bed. He couldn't talk, but was mumbling and seemed to look right through my eyes. I told my grandmother I wasn't going to go, but she insisted that he would be fine. So I went with my friends. We had been on the road maybe 20 minutes, and I had to get my friend to pull over because I was feeling sick. We got to Chapel Hill around 6 o'clock. I had my grandpa on my mind the whole time, so I really didn't enjoy myself. We left early the next morning, and when we pulled into my driveway, I immediately saw a white wreath. My heart went cold. I started crying in my friend's car. My friends tried to comfort me, but I was a wreck. I walked inside and the whole family was there. They got up and hugged me and told me that he was in a better place now. Odd thing was, he died 20 minutes after I had left that day. Around the same time, I got sick. That night, things were odd. I couldn't take my eyes off the hallway that led to my grandparents' room. My girlfriend had come up to visit me from South Carolina, and to help get through this tough time. We went to bed early that night. Well, I did at least. My girlfriend couldn't sleep, so she was sitting in the corner of the bed, playing with her cell phone. I was dead asleep. Suddenly, my bed began to vibrate so ridiculously hard that I woke up immediately. It went on for a few seconds. After I was fully awake, it stopped. "Did my freaking bed just shake?" I said. I reached for the light, and she was sitting still in the corner of the bed. She was scared to death, so we sat up for a little bit. We started hearing noises from the kitchen. We had a big china cabinet that was full of very old china from my grandmother. Suddenly, we heard a wham! It sounded like the hutch had just slammed into the floor. Needless to say, we were scared. It was so loud that it woke my grandmother up. After I heard she was up, I walked down the hallway to the kitchen and noticed that not only had the hutch fallen over, but the kitchen was destroyed. We spent that whole night cleaning it up. I've always wondered if my grandfather was mad that I had left when he was dying. Okay, so that's from Michael in North Carolina. Thank you so much, Michael. And the next one's from Dawn in Columbus, Ohio. And I hope you're doing okay after all the flooding. I heard about that yesterday. And here we go. Hello, Lex. I love the show, and I can't wait to hear more. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and the house I grew up in is from the 1800s, once an old farmhouse in its day. When we moved into this house, it was 1981, and I was 5 years old. I would always hear talk about Red Eye. The home's previous owner was an old man. The house has a basement, and in the basement was a homemade shock box that if someone tried to get into the house through the basement windows, this box would send them a charge and shock them. Also, the windows upstairs had paint on them that blocked them from the outside world. In the attic, there was a chest with Nazi items in it, and my mother said she always felt like something else was in the house with us. I believe my mother was sensitive in some ways, and can feel things before they happen, and sense things that no one else can. I don't believe that I have the same ability, but when I was 5, something happened that may tell me otherwise. In the attic was a closed storage hanging unit. It zipped up and hung from the rafters. My mother said that's where Red Eye lived for quite some time, before he realized that we were good people and then left. But Red Eye did make himself known in a Christmas picture one year. It was of me standing in front of the Christmas tree. Behind the tree, there was a black shadow with red eyes. The tree had blue Christmas lights on it, and nothing was red. I still feel weird whenever I think about Red Eye, and I wonder if he ever found that old man. Okay, and that story is from Dawn in Columbus, Ohio. And thank you, Dawn.